In the past, we created some what-ifs. One of the ones that sort of started the trend of us creating a whole new scenario outside of established canon was what if Kushina survived? After that, we tried our hands not once, but twice in What If Minato Survived, telling two separate stories about that same topic. But something I have long since wanted to do but never had the chance to until one of you happy viewers passed along the idea is, what if they both survived? Surely Minato and Kushina together could make a big change for Naruto in his life. But how? I guess we'll just have to wait and see now, won't we? Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed, and with that out of the way, let's get into the video. The night it all happened was both the happiest and most frightening night in Minato's life. His wife, having been 9 months pregnant, had finally felt her water break. She started going into labor, and so Minato, trembling, made a few calls. The mystery of childbirth and the stresses of fatherhood left Minato shaken. Why was he? Why should he be? He was the Hokage. He was 1/5 of the deciding factors in the fate of the whole planet. Minato was one of the most powerful men in the world. With his word, wars would start, entire civilizations would end, cultures cease to exist, and millions or more could die. And that was also the cost of flubs as well. And yet, for a man who carried the entire world upon his shoulders, the thing that caused him to crack was not his job or some political event. No. It was the birth of his first child. They had not checked the gender as they wanted to be surprised, but Kushina's intuition told her it was going to be a blue banner instead of pink. He was sure that Kushina had wanted a girl secretly, even if she never told him so. Why did he know that? Well, he knew his wife. And also, she was very similar to him, and he was secretly hoping for a boy. Internal Minato was secretly pulling the chain behind her back. What father wouldn't want a mini-me hellion running around to bond with? And what mother wouldn't secretly want an adorable little girl to dress up and just flat-out cuddle all the day long? It was natural for a parent to desire a child that they knew they could easily bond with. That and ye old battle of the sexes had left a healthy rivalry between Minato and Kushina. But despite never saying what they secretly wanted, the thing they did say about the baby was true 100%. They just wanted it to be healthy. After all, Minato was sure he could turn any girl into a tomboy anyway, and despite those happy memories of secretly joking about how they would raise the baby behind the other's back, all that was left now was pure and utter anxiety. It felt as though the world would come to an end. In the eyes of some, it was just a baby, so why overreact? Yeah, well, some weren't parents. It was nerve-wracking taking care of a child, because you had to worry every moment of every day that the baby was going to somehow get hurt, and that it would be your fault if it did. The fear that some accidental neglectful action just because you wanted an extra 30 minutes of sleep, or that secret pickle break you had to take every halfway point between meals would lead to some tragedy that would leave you destroyed. Perhaps Minato was overthinking these things, but then again, that was the job of a parent. Overthink everything. And even though he wasn't yet a father, he knew by the sound of Kushina's voice that he was about to be. So he was getting his daddy pants on now while the going was good. Now, as for Kushina, at that moment in time, the only thing she could think of was how badly this hurt. Her mind wasn't even on being a parent. Instead, she was musing to herself that this must be what it feels like in those alien movies after the facehugger has attached itself to your face. Her face was red and her temper was beginning to flare. Her complexion, now matching the temper that was the red hot-blooded habanero of the leaf, told Minato that if she wasn't too busy laying on the table pushing a baby out of her body, that she would have gotten up just to kick his ass for doing this to her. This room, despite being ground zero for a miracle, was filled with so much negativity, fear, anger, and all the while Minato was still keeping his hand upon the seal on her belly, begging the Ninetales not to come out. He was busy keeping it chained to its Chibaku Tensei. He was busy with his comically large mallet playing whack-a-mole with the spikes that were slowly pushing out of Kurama's body. His senses were focused so much so that he didn't even notice someone in the room who wasn't supposed to be there. Well, more like right outside the room, but all the same, Minato should have sensed him, but didn't. Obito, wearing his awesome tiger stripe mask, stood there watching. So, Amagi, are you really going to make me do this to her again? The answer was no, we weren't gonna make him do it again. At least not in this video. Obito had been certain that he was going to walk in there and take that baby from them and hold it hostage, but the moment he pulled his kunai and got ready to move, he heard Kushina let out well, honestly, it was the most pitiful cry he had ever heard. One that didn't sound like something such a strong woman would do. It didn't even sound like Kushina anymore. He heard Minato's voice asking about the baby, but it didn't sound like Minato. In another place in time, he heard himself in Minato's place, wearing that Haori, hands on the stomach of Rin, keeping Isobu in as their firstborn child was being born. It was so vivid in his mind that he dropped his kunai. He felt like he was going to have a heart attack the moment it happened. He felt so happy. And then suddenly he saw in his vision a man rushing in, killing the infant and taking Rin away to kill her. The emotion Obito felt from that single moment completely robbed him of all the wind that had been in his sails. Coming back to when his kunai hit the floor with a clang, he worried someone had heard it. He then heard from within that someone questioned it. He heard a voice whisper to another to go check it out. Obito's mind hit fight or flight, but realizing that he was going to chicken out, Obito turned tail and began to run. It was better this way. If they had discovered him, he would have had to fought for absolutely no reason. So Obito left the building. Peeking outside, they detected no tiger-masked man. Returning in, they finished what they were doing. Snipping the cord, they cleaned the child off and swaddled it like an adorable little present. A birthday present, presented not to the one who was born, but to the one who gave birth. The baby let off slight crying sounds, its mind, body, and spirit still arguing and attempting to find balance after such a strenuous event. Plowing past Minato, the baby was presented to Kushina, who immediately named him Naruto. When Biwako questioned the wisdom of naming their child after a food condiment, they said it was Jiraiya's idea. Oh, so it's Jiraiya's idea, huh? Might as well make his middle name Ketchup. Actually, that's a wonderful idea, Minato said. Naruto Ketchup Namikaze. Naruto Ketchup Namikaze, Kushina said with a smile. Biwako felt as if she had committed some horrible sin against this child, but alas, the birth certificate needed to be filled. Kushina held the child close as Minato, standing beside, offered a kiss to its little yellow head. Everything from before, the pain, the fear, the anger, the terror, it had all melted away. It was now apparent to Minato why this was called the miracle of life. Not only did biology create something that laboratories and science couldn't produce any other way, but it also completely wiped away the memory of all the suffering. That was what made this miracle a special one. After this had happened and the seal on the Ninetales was stabilized, they began the process of transferring Kushina and Minato to the hospital. It was through this, though, that they discovered that many of the Anbu agents left to guard the outside had been killed. Somebody definitely tried to get in, Kakashi said as he looked it over. The question is, why didn't they? The guards on the outside were the only real guards here. Any inside would have been easy pickings. So what gives? Minato had no clue, but he decided to add it to the pile of blessings he'd received that day. Not that the deaths of others were a blessing by any means, but that whoever had attacked them had not made it in during the time Kushina was giving birth. That being said, Minato found it best not to tell Kushina of these things. Transporting her to the hospital, they gladly accepted guests, though only after careful inspection by the Anbu. Minato told Kushina that it was protocol, which to a point it was, but in reality, the criteria for passing the examinations were a lot stricter than they otherwise would have been. Minato knew they got lucky, but he didn't want to have that blind him to the possibilities of what could happen, or still be in the works. It didn't take long for the clan heads to begin visiting. After all, this was a special occasion, and even if you didn't give two craps about the baby, you still gave two craps about the relationship with the Hokage, and nobody wanted to be the scar dissing on Simba's birth. The first to arrive was, of course, Fugaku and Makoto. They even brought along Sasuke and Itachi. Makoto sat down and just started talking all about childbirth. Bet it hurt, didn't it? She said. Kushina agreed. Makoto chuckled. Don't worry, all those nerves in there'll die. It'll be easier for the second baby. Kushina scoffed. Yeah, no, we're not having any other babies. Naruto is our only. Can't do it again. Minato and Fugaku's conversation consisted of a fist bump and the recent cowboys at the commander's game. Itachi, all the while, remained quiet as he observed the little pink ball of flesh named Ketchup. He compared the baby to Sasuke, who, while still small, was a bit bigger than Naruto, and at least didn't look like a very tiny senior citizen. After Fugaku, Hiruzen would be the next to visit. He would offer the couple congratulations. Minato would accept them, but would eventually step out of the room with Hiruzen. What can you tell me about the Anbu deaths reported outside the facility? Hiruzen then explained that they didn't know much at the time. All we do know, Hiruzen said, is that someone seems to have attempted to break into the facility. Their purpose is not known, but considering the high-profile nature of those within, it likely had to do with either you or Kushina. Minato nodded. Any idea why they wouldn't have attacked us in the end? Hiruzen shrugged. A kunai not connected to any of our shinobi at the facility was found discarded outside the door of the delivery room. In all likelihood, it very well could have been an enemy nation planning to either assassinate you, steal the Ninetales, or both, and maybe they got cold feet when they actually saw you. Minato agreed. Whatever the case, I'm glad they didn't try anything, but we should keep security tight around Kushina. I don't want them trying anything a second time. "We need to keep security tight around you as well. You're the Hokage after all." Minato scoffed and chuckled. "No, I don't think I need that." Hiruzen let out a disheartened, disappointed sigh that drew Minato's attention. "Hey now, what's that about?" he asked, slightly afraid he had somehow made himself look stupid. "Don't be overconfident, Minato. A whole squad of our best trained shinobi were killed like it was nothing. Even you might have an issue pulling off that feat, especially without alerting anyone. If you underestimate the enemy, you'll suffer for it. That's wisdom from an older generation. I'm not saying it's bad to have confidence, but pride is different. Don't overestimate yourself while underestimating someone else. The distance between the two of you might not be as great as you think." After Hiruzen returned home, they were visited by Hiyashi Hyuga and his wife, the latter of which was revealed to have also been pregnant. So it was only a few months later that the roles were reversed. Minato and Kushina would return to that same hospital, the same room even, to wish the Hyugas joy and happiness with their new baby. "Good luck," Minato said to Hiyashi. "You're gonna need it. The first few weeks at home are total hell." Hiyashi took in a deep breath and released it with a strained groan. "Thanks." Eventually, when nothing came of the investigation and no new threats arrived, the case of who tried to attack the Hokage while his wife was preggers, Minato was never good at naming things, went cold and was stored away somewhere for some time. Minato would go on to continue his duties as Hokage as Kushina would spend time bonding with their baby and returning to her stay-at-home wife mentality. But as the years passed, when Naruto was 4 and Hinata was having her 3rd birthday party, something rather unfortunate occurred. You see, coinciding with this birthday party was also a peace conference between the ambassadors of Kumogakure. Since the Third Shinobi World War ended, Kumo and Konoha had continued to fight between themselves, which led to a long-standing war between the two. The world had calmed, but two of its leading superpowers had not yet called it quits. But all that seemed to be over with the sudden decision to host a peace conference by Kumo, a white flag of parley, an olive branch. This gave Minato hope that peace could be restored to the world, but it was all just a ruse. The ambassadors had betrayed the white flag by attempting to use it to kidnap Hinata. Hinata was one of the few Hyuga without a curse mark to limit the theft of their Byakugan, and this peace conference presented a unique opportunity. Looking back now, Minato realized just how rigged the whole thing was, but during the time, all he could think about was that it was a funny coincidence that was stopping him from attending the birthday party. Didn't stop him from sending a gift in the mail though. That being said, what Kumo had done was a war crime, but only Konoha knew it, so it made no difference telling anyone about it. The shinobi that had been trying to steal Hinata away from her parents were killed in the attempt. Konoha began pointing fingers at Kumo, believing that to be the plan all along, but Kumo disavowed the situation, saying it was a Konoha fabrication, and that they just grabbed any random excuse so they could murder the ambassadors. Without proper proof, it became a he said, she said, and in the end, Kumo threatened to return the war to a blazing heat if Konoha did not offer justice in the form of the body of Hiyashi Hyuga. Once again, this was another attempt to get a hold of the Byakugan. But even if it wasn't, Minato wasn't about to agree to this at all. He told Kumo that there would be no trade, which left the Raikage enraged. He would then declare war on Konoha once again, leading to a full-out war. But worse than that, as the wars raged, once neutral nations began to join as well, starting another great ninja war. The 4th in the line. Sometimes Minato wondered how the future generations would remember him. After all, it was under his watchful eye that the 4th Shinobi World War began, but all the same, Minato knew that he couldn't just let his nation be walked on. If the world wanted to bully Konoha, Konoha would bully them right back, and if they desired to fight, then Konoha would take the fight to them, and remind them why they were the greatest shinobi village in the world. As the years continued to pass along though, Naruto grew and would eventually be put into the academy to be trained. He would have a few issues with the learning curve, but Minato was always there to explain it to him. After all, Minato had these same issues when he was younger, but when he got the basics of what he needed to learn, his growth rate increased exponentially. Naruto was the same way. Quickly, he went from subpar as a student to above average, and would graduate easily when he was 12, the same time that Sasuke did. The two boys had a bit of a rivalry, and due to their latent potential, they were quickly named Chunin. That was a hard choice for Minato to make though, as he knew that any Chunin ranked would immediately be sent into the battlefield, but he trusted Kakashi. Kakashi was the last surviving member of Minato's old squad, and he had personally requested that Kakashi be the mentor for the kids. He agreed to it and became the mentor of Team 7, which consisted of Naruto, Sasuke, and a young girl named Sakura. Minato couldn't help but smile as he saw it, as he was reminded of his own squad he had during the Third Shinobi World War. Kakashi likely was reminded of the same, but he never said anything. They eventually were taken out into the battlefield for the first time. Minato tried to give them warm-up lessons to help them acclimate to the new life they were living, which they did complete successfully. Then came a mission that seemed to evoke a bit of trauma for Minato and Kakashi together, but there was no one else who could handle it. So Minato passed it on to Team 7. The mission was to destroy a bridge that served as a key supply line to Kumo. The group would head for a forest close to the front lines and would begin to discuss their mission. Okay, now listen. This is a very important mission, and potentially very dangerous. You must listen to my commands and follow my orders without question as soon as I give them. Capiche? Naruto could tell that this mission was sensitive to Kakashi, so he tried not to ask about it too much and to follow orders. They began to sneak behind enemy lines, keeping to the trees as best they could. Kakashi during this time had his Sharingan active and was constantly looking from place to place to ensure that nobody had noticed them, nor that they were being followed. So far, the coast was clear. Kakashi smiled. Maybe this isn't a cursed mission after all. Suddenly, a paper bomb went off, taking out the branch he was about to land on. Kakashi fell to the ground where he rolled and landed on his feet. From the treetops, Sakura called down, "Kakashi-sensei, are you okay?" Kumo Nin began to surround them. Well, what do we have here? A bunch of kids and a washed-up Anbunin, one of the shinobi said, a rather beefy man whose head was shaved. He was strong enough to carry a log-sized iron club as a weapon, and behind him were smaller yet heavily armed shinobi. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura jumped down to aid their mentor. "Stay close," Kakashi commanded. "Cover your rears," Sasuke shouted as he pulled a kunai. "I think it's our fronts we gotta worry about," Naruto said as he also bore his weapons. "You thought you guys could make it past the Panzer Squad?" Naruto looked around. "I don't see no panzers." The beefy man laughed. "You're not looking hard enough, kid." The man displayed his metal club, which turned out to be a large cannon instead. He pulled the trigger and fired at them. They barely had enough time to get out of the way. As Naruto hit the ground, his ears were ringing. The man that they would from now on just call Panzer began to reload his cannon. As they got up, the other shinobi around them began to attack. They were outnumbered 3-1. They tried to stay close. "We need a narrow area where we can bottleneck them," Naruto said. "That's not a good idea, Naruto," Sasuke shouted. "With that cannon, they'll shred us to pieces in an enclosed space." Kakashi thought about it. "No, wait, it's actually a great idea." "What?" Sakura shouted. "How is us getting killed a great idea?" Kakashi then began to run. "Just trust me." They found a ravine which would serve their purpose and began to run through it. "That cannon's gonna tear us apart," Sasuke said. "Correction, it's gonna tear them apart." Team 7 was confused. Looking back, they saw the shinobi coming. Panzer raised his cannon and fired. However, the moment he lifted it, Kakashi activated his Mangekyo Sharingan. Kamui! He captured the cannonball out of midair and a moment later utilized Kamui again to open another portal that sent it back out the other side, having barely lost any momentum. The ball shot through the air, breaking the sound barrier a second time before plowing through most of the shinobi, with Panzer only barely escaping the shot. Realizing he's lost his advantage, he begins to pull back, but not before flashing a toothy grin signifying that this isn't the last they'll see of him. "I didn't like the way that guy looked at us," Sasuke said. "He looked like such a twit," Naruto said. "He overestimated himself and his team, but Kakashi-sensei showed him what for." Kakashi let out a sigh. "We better hurry, or we're gonna get caught before the mission's complete." The moment they turned around, Kakashi notices that something's wrong. Wait, Sakura! Sakura! There's no answer to Kakashi's call. Then he understands what's happening. They captured her. At that moment, everything Kakashi had ever wrestled with from his own team under Minato came rushing back. Memories of Rin and Obito. His life felt like it was on loop. No, I'm not losing another member of my team. Kakashi walks over to the group of shinobi and finds one that's still alive. He pulls him up and shakes him awake. "Where is she?" The man doesn't seem to understand. "Where's your base of operations? Where's Panzer?" The shinobi holds his tongue. That is until Kakashi's Mangekyo glares into his vision. "You will tell me, or I'll make you suffer 1,000 of the most painful executions that my twisted mind can come up with before I allow you to die in reality. Tell me where Panzer is and you might walk out of this with your life." The shinobi, likely no older than 17, already hobbled for life, dealing with the immense pain and knowledge that his body is horrifically and permanently destroyed, cannot cope with the terror presented by Kakashi's threat. Kakashi's Sharingan, despite being powerful with Genjutsu, was telling no lies currently. He was going to do everything he said he would unless the man spilled his guts. And so, he did just that. He told Kakashi exactly where to find Panzer. "He's in a cave, deep at the side of a nearby cliff face." "Where?" Kakashi demanded. The man gave the coordinates. Kakashi then let the man go and began heading in that direction. Sasuke and Naruto were shocked. "Kakashi-sensei?" Kakashi didn't even look back at them. "Stay close to me. That's an order." Without question, they followed their mentor. He led them to the place that the shinobi had said that Panzer had gone. Within, they saw Sakura sitting down, tied up. This was uncanny. "The famed shinobi of the Sharingan Eye, a stolen eye of great power. I know all about you, Kakashi. I've studied you for years. The thing about killing a legend is that once you do it, you become a legend yourself." "So that's what this is for?" Kakashi asked. "For popularity. Seems like a rather stupid thing to waste your life on." Panzer shrugged as he held his cannon, wiping the smudges from its surface. "When I become a national hero and possess the Sharingan myself, I think it'll be time well spent." "That is, if you live long enough to see the sun again," Kakashi said. "I promise you now, Beefcake, you're never gonna make it out of this cave alive." "We'll see," Panzer said as he readied his cannon like a club. Kakashi rushed forward with his Chidori, taking one of the 3 nameless shinobi out before moving back to handle Panzer himself. Sasuke and Naruto would engage with the other 2 shinobi, and due to their prodigious natures, easily dispatch the 2. Kakashi would then use his speed against Panzer, knowing that it was his advantage. Panzer was stronger and had greater defense, but because of his bulk he was slow, and that made it hard for him to hit Kakashi. "Now that I'm up close and personal, this is almost pathetic. I can't believe I was ever intimidated by you. Your big, useless cannon was more intimidating than your fat ass ever was." Panzer smashed the massive hunk of metal into the ground, causing a thud and a reverberation that made pebbles fall from the ceiling, threatening the stability of the cave. Kakashi knew he had to end this soon, so he utilized his Chidori as soon as he could to strike Panzer with a fatal wound. Panzer, baffled by how such a shrimp could hurt him like this, stumbled back and fell against the wall. "You made a mistake, Panzer. If you knew everything there was to know about me, then you should have known that it takes a lot to piss me off. But when I'm pissed off, all hell breaks loose. I guess it's too late for you to learn that now. Die, lamenting your failures." As he sat there, Panzer coughed up blood and began to laugh, much to Kakashi's confusion. "What's so funny?" Kakashi asked. "You were right," Panzer said. "I'm never making it out of this cave alive. But neither are you." Panzer held up his cannon and with his last bit of strength fired it up into the cave ceiling, prompting a collapse. Kakashi saw it and had flashbacks of everything that had happened with Obito. Kakashi turned back to see them finishing untying Sakura. "Sasuke, grab Naruto! Chidori!" Kakashi weaved hand signs for his Chidori, as did Sasuke. Kakashi ran through, using the speed of his technique to hasten his running speed. He picked up Sakura, and like a flash of lightning, they were out of the cave. Looking back, he saw Naruto holding on for dear life as Sasuke rushed out with his Chidori too. They just barely got out as the cave collapsed. Kakashi, like a terrified parent, began counting heads and examining for boo-boos. Content that there was nothing there, Kakashi let out a sigh of relief. "You're all fine. That's good." "What happened in there, Kakashi-sensei? We've been in danger before, but you've never acted like that." Kakashi was silent as he pondered the question. Now is not the time for that. We need to get to the bridge and sabotage it. Realizing that Kakashi was not in the mood to be messed with, they all followed him in silence. Getting to the bridge, they began to set various explosives on, under, and around the bridge. They not only wanted to decimate it, but also the materials and surrounding structure so that no bridge could ever be built here again. Perhaps it was overkill, but this was on the orders of Minato. As they finished with the bridge though, they began to retreat to a safe distance. Feeling somewhat safe, Kakashi waited for Naruto, but he never showed up. Fearing that he got stuck on the bridge, Kakashi left the plunger behind and told Sasuke and Sakura not to touch it until he got back. Kakashi made it out to the bridge to get Naruto, but as he did so, he was startled by what he saw. Standing in the very center of the bridge was Panzer. His body bloodied, face disfigured, somehow still alive. He looked like he was only being held together by pain, anger, and hatred itself. The need for vengeance was pumping in place of blood, and the strength of his wrath replaced the broken bones riddled throughout his body. In his clutches, he held Naruto. Panzer didn't speak. He had what he wanted, his revenge. Pointing his cannon toward the nearest stack of TNT, he fired, despite Kakashi crying for him not to. The entire bridge went up in a massive explosion, knocking Kakashi back. Everything was dark for a moment. All he heard was the ringing in his ears. When he came to, Sakura and Sasuke were by his side, Sakura crying hysterically. Sasuke was looking back at the bridge. There was nothing left of it, nor the people who'd stood upon it. Kakashi felt no pain, only a cold chill. His body was in shock. As he looked down, he noticed the hard truth. His right arm was gone, and he was missing both legs above the knees. Looking toward the bridge, he saw the flames. Realizing Naruto was on there, Kakashi knew that he must be dead. "Naruto's dead," he said within himself. "How am I ever going to tell Minato-sensei?" As Kakashi laid there in a hospital bed, he didn't even have the strength to cover his face with his gator anymore. It was taken off of him and he no longer cared to hide it. That mask was once used to hide him from the shame his father brought upon him, but now shame was all he felt, and there was no need for a mask. As he laid there, staring out the window, he thought about how he had failed his master. He kept seeing it replaying in his head over and over again, how Panzer, somehow still alive, had blown the bridge up with Naruto still on it. Kakashi had been blown back by the blast, the concussive forces having caused severe internal bleeding. He almost died. To a degree, Kakashi wished that he had. But he didn't. He had survived, and now was left with only his thoughts and the aching pain in his limbs that were no longer there. No legs, only one arm, and it wasn't even his good arm. It was his non-dominant. Earlier that morning, Might Guy paid him a visit in the hospital, bringing him flowers, chocolates, and balloons, and a get well letter. He sang a song he made up called Get Better Soon, My Eternal Rival, and he brought, well, you know Might Guy. All the while, he thought back about the bridge still. After the flames had died down, they checked the rubble and found no trace of either Naruto or Panzer, which was no surprise. The heat and the blast were so powerful that it likely vaporized everything. Nothing was left of Naruto. There wasn't even anything they could send home to Kushina and Minato. That was one thing Kakashi was glad he didn't have to do. If he had been well, it would have been his responsibility to tell Minato and Kushina, but because he was hospitalized, that had been pushed off to someone else. Kakashi was glad for that, because he didn't think he could dare to look his mentor in the eyes. Minato and Kushina were at home. Kushina was attempting to wash the dishes and Minato was tickling her. She laughed loudly and uncontrollably. "Minato, stop! I'm gonna pass out!" She then went on the counter-offensive, reaching back to get his ribs. Minato laughed. Stepping back to catch his breath, Kushina was on him in a moment, with more tickling. She had gained the advantage and would not stop even if he cried for mercy. His only resort was to freak her out. Having gotten a bit too close, Minato stuck his tongue out and licked her forehead, causing her to recoil in surprise and shock. She raised a brow. Minato smiled. It worked, didn't it? Kushina smiled and wiped her forehead with the dish towel. Walking over to him, she put her arms around his neck loosely and gave him a kiss. "I love you," she said. Minato giggled. "I love you too." He looked around. "Say, you know Naruto's not home, right?" Kushina shook her head and walked back to the sink. "I got chores to do, Minato." Minato nodded. "Yeah, but those can wait. Besides, didn't you say you wanted to try for a girl next? What was it you wanted to name her? Akane?" Kushina looked back. "Yes, but only if she doesn't inherit your mop of a head like Naruto did." "And if she does," Minato asked, "then we name her after you too. Another toe name. Minato, Naruto, Boruto, the line'll never end." Minato smiles as he thinks about it. "I hope her hair is red like yours. The kids at the academy will make fun of her," Kushina said. "And she'll kick their asses just like you did." Kushina surrendered to his point. "I did kick a lot of ass when I was younger." "It's what attracted me to you," Minato said. Kushina turned around to face him again. "You smooth talker. You're really down bad, aren't you? Maybe I want to have another while we're still young. I mean, we are both 36. How much longer do you think that window's gonna stay open?" Kushina sighed. She dropped the towel. "All right, let's go then." As they were leaving the kitchen, though, the doorbell rang. "Oh, who is it, I wonder?" Kushina asked. "If we're quiet, maybe they'll go away," Minato said as he was ready to sneak away from the door. "Minato, don't be rude." She opened the door to see Inoichi Yamanaka standing there in his long black coat. To his side was Ibiki Marino, Mrs. Namikaze. Kushina felt a sudden sense of dread. "Ino, we've known each other long enough to be on a nicknames basis. What's up?" Inoichi took a deep breath and strained it out as a groan. "Kushina, it's Naruto. There was an accident, and your son was killed in action." Kushina's face turned white as her pupils dilated. She didn't even respond. "Kushina," Inoichi asked, "are you okay?" Without even blinking or moving more than a slight disoriented sway, she spoke. "Yeah, I'm fine. Goodbye." She closed the door. Ibiki looked over. "Wow, she took that better than expected." Inoichi shook his head. "No, she didn't." As the door closed behind her, she pressed her back up against it. Minato was standing on the stairs, leaning up against the wall. He purred at her. "Well, aren't you a fine cat? What brings you to this alleyway?" Kushina didn't react. She just continued to stare straight through him. Immediately, Minato knew something was up. "Ku? What's wrong? Who was that?" Kushina covered her face as if she were going to puke, but instead, all that came out of her mouth was a high-pitched squelch. Her back slid against the door as her legs gave out. Minato rushed down the stairs to help her. "Kushina!" He held her. "What's wrong?" Kushina finally blinked, two massive tears rushing out of each of her eyelids. "It's Naruto. He's been killed." Minato's eyes widened. "What?" "They said he was killed in action. Minato was concerned now. That's not true. There's no way that's true. I trained him myself. He's no idiot. He helps her stand and walks her to the couch. Sit here. I'm gonna go figure this out. He then walked back to the door, opened it up, and went out towards the Hokage's office. As soon as he entered, he walked to the receptionist. You're in a hurry, she said, pointing down at his feet that were dirty from the long walk, having forgotten to put his shoes on. Records, he demanded. Records, she repeated. Is there an echo? Minato said. Records. The receptionist, startled by this outburst, stood up, got the keys, and walked with him to the back room. She opened the door. He began going through files. Naruto, 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 Naruto. He kept looking, but didn't find anything. It's not in here. Maybe it was a false alarm? Just then, Irika walked in the room. Lord Forth, he said. He seemed to almost try to hide a file he was holding. What's that in your hand? Minato asked. My hand? Show it, Minato demanded. Irika, starting to sweat, offered the file to Minato. He opened the folder and began to look through. It was a file on Naruto. The top of it was stamped in big capital letters. K-I-A. Minato saw it and took a deep breath. No. There's a mistake here. This can't be true. There has to be a mistake, Minato said. I'm sorry, sir, but it's the truth. Minato shook his head. It's not. There's no body recorded in this file. That's not KIA, that's MIA, which means there's still a good chance he's alive. Shinobi go MIA all the time and still find their way back to the village. It's common. No, Lord Forth. This time it's KIA. You don't know that, Minato shouted. Yes, I do, Irika shouted back. He immediately regretted that as he seemed to sink down into his own shoulders and look away. I'm sorry, Lord Forth. Naruto was close to me, too. Minato shook his head in confusion. How do you know? Minato asked. Irika finally locked eyes with Minato again. Because Kakashi witnessed it. Kakashi? Is he here? Minato asked. In the village. Irika nodded. He's currently in the intensive care unit. Minato pushed by. Lord Forth, wait! Minato exited the building again, moving through the streets, not caring about the mud and broken glass he would step in. He was a man on a mission. What mattered now was Naruto. Anything else could come later. He stopped by the hospital door and walked in. The first thing the nurse did was comment on Minato's bare feet and how uncouth it was. Minato ignored her. Where's Kakashi Hatake? Kakashi Hatake? The nurse knew better than to question the Hokage. He would be in room 404. Minato would walk past her. Hey, wait, you can't go up unannounced. Minato was already gone. Taking the elevator up, he strode past doctors and nurses alike until he came to room 404. Kakashi, he said as he opened the door. He looked in and saw Kakashi laying there, a stump of a man with only one good limb. In that moment, it all hit Minato. Naruto's dead, isn't he? Kakashi looked away from Minato, turning on his side. Minato fell to his knees. He was staring at the floor, squeaky clean, the only blemish being the color of red blood and brown mud-shaped footprints that he had created. He could see his own reflection right now, but in it, he didn't see his own face. The face of Naruto. That face quickly faded into his own as tears hit the ground. How did it happen? Minato asked. Kakashi was silent. How did it happen? Minato snapped. It's in the file, Kakashi shouted before turning his head again. Minato stood and walked over, turning Kakashi on his side with force, drawing a cry. This isn't how I taught you to act. This isn't how a team leader acts. He was your responsibility. Now tell me what happened. Kakashi had hoped that this wouldn't happen, but it seemed that fate would not stop taking a dump on him. As if he hadn't been traumatized enough, he now had to explain to his master how he had committed the ultimate failure. Kakashi took a deep breath. The mission you said would be fine. The one you said wasn't cursed. It was cursed. Halfway through enemy lines, we were ambushed. So many Kumonin. Minato listened intently. A big tank of a man appeared with a freaking cannon over his shoulder. We were attacked. We defeated his squad at first, but he took a hostage, Sakura. Then, when we chased after, we found them in a cave. It was Kanabi Bridge all over again. But the difference was we escaped the collapse before it occurred. Everyone made it out okay. I was so sure everything was going to work out. Then, when we got to the bridge, we started setting up the TNT. We met at the rendezvous point, and Naruto wasn't there. I went back to find him, only to find that bastard of a man, Panzer, had him in his arms. I'd tried to negotiate him free. I was a second away from using Kamui to take the bastard's head off, but before I could, he blasted the TNT, killing himself and Naruto. I only escaped with my life because I was on the edge of the bridge. Minato, hearing the story, took up a seat and sat down. He was just processing it all. Kakashi looked over at Minato. I did everything I could possibly do, Minato, you know that. I'd have died to protect him if I could. Minato kept his gaze fixed on its place on the floor. I know you would've, he said lightly, still in thought. In truth, it wasn't really Kakashi's fault, and Minato couldn't really blame him. He knew his student, and knew how well he was trained. He couldn't blame him. He really would have died just to protect Naruto, so if Kakashi said there was nothing to be done, then Minato knew it had to be true. I'm sorry, Minato-sensei, Kakashi said. Minato's eyes looked over at Kakashi for a moment before returning to the floor. You didn't do anything wrong, Minato said. You tried your best. I'm sorry if I'm making you feel guilty. It's not my intent. I just don't know what to do. This was so unexpected. Kakashi sat back. This is why I never wanted to leave Anbu. Minato's hand rested on Kakashi's shoulder. Kakashi, don't blame yourself anymore. It wasn't your fault. I should have trained him better. Kakashi shook his head. No, that was my responsibility. If I had trained him better, he wouldn't have been killed. Minato stood. Where are you going? Kakashi asked. Minato looked down. Home. I have to tell Kushina. He then began to back out of the room, leaving only dirty footprints behind. The walk home felt unbearable. How was he ever going to confirm to Kushina that Naruto truly was dead? As he walked down the street, he stopped and noticed a playground. On that playground was a father and son. The dad was holding the son up above his head as his son held its arms out like an airplane's wings. Minato fell to his knees. Grabbing at his face as if he could somehow peel the sorrow away, he began to cry. Naruto, he said, unable to hide his emotion any further. Things were only now starting to truly set in. He beat his fist into the dirt, not once, not twice, but many times. He smashed his fist into the ground until it bled. He growled. How could he have let this happen? He had given Naruto everything he believed he needed to survive. Making his way home, he didn't want to open the door. He was afraid of what might happen. He didn't know what to say. He just stood there for a while, not wanting to enter, because he felt like if he entered, it would all be final. It was as if this were a dream, or a fake world he could leave at any moment. But he felt as though if he opened the door, he would make it into this new reality, and he wasn't ready to admit that. He wasn't ready to take this as his new normal. He didn't want to live with this scar forever. He just wanted to... The door opened up slowly. Kushina was standing on the other side, her eyes looking at him with concern. His face, surprised and shocked, the two simply stared at each other for a moment. Kushina looked down at Minato's feet and his pants. His clothes were splattered with mud, and Minato looked as if he had fallen out the back of a garbage truck. She knew it was grief. Looking back at his face, her eyes began to overrun with tears again, as she knew this was the confirmation of the thing she never wanted to admit. She fell into his arms and wailed. The neighbors heard it, but didn't look. They had all lived through war, and many of them understood that pain. The sound of Kushina's crying had once been the same sounds they had made. This was not the time to snoop. It was a time to let them have their privacy, because it was only when people broke down in public that you knew that they needed privacy most. Minato couldn't help but cry too. He wished he could turn back time or rewrite fate, but he couldn't. He was just a man with a title in a ninja village, nothing more. So the best they could do was console each other. Time would pass, but the scars never could heal. No matter what they did, it didn't raise their moods, and so Minato simply went back to work. The village needed him, and the longer that he spent away from work, the more that he'd be tempted to fall deeper into depression. He had always been told that the best way to keep yourself from being self-pitying is to inject yourself into the hardship of others. Join a soup kitchen, do something that showed you how much people hurt, and maybe it could help you cope with your own pain. Minato, knowing Kushina was in a tough spot, actually had her head over to a charitable organization that would produce food for those who were in poverty, and with many people dying in the war, families were left without patriarchs. The wives often had nowhere to go to feed their children. He knew Kushina would be able to handle it. She was strong and wouldn't give in. This was the most hurt she'd ever felt, and it was here, at her weakest, that the nine-tailed demon fox was trying to whisper in her ear. Minato was doing everything he could to counteract what it was saying, but there were times when he worried about her. That's why he made the personal request to Makoto Uchiha to join Kushina if she could. She needed a positive influence at all times to ensure that she never gave in to the Nine-Tails' manipulation. Now Minato was focusing on himself. He would neglect himself every day if Kushina needed it, but now that he had time to himself, he attempted to drown himself in his own work. He sat there, reading over requests with his stamp set. There were 2 boxes on his desk. One said in, the other said out. Taking a piece of paper from the inbox, he would read over the request while trying to manage the budget in his head. Denied, he said as he put it into the out. He then read the next one. Infrastructure repair. He thought about the mud and glass he had stepped on in the potholes around the village. Approved. He then put that in the outbox too. He then continued looking over the rest of the requests as a knock on his door was heard. "Come in," he called out. The door opened. It was Hiruzen. "Oh, Lord Third, what can I do for you?" "We've known each other far too long to continue using those tired old titles." Minato smiled. "Of course. What can I do for you, Hiruzen?" "I just stopped by to see if you'd like a break." Minato shook his head and went back to work. "Sorry, I got a lot to do. I can't afford a break right now." He stamped another piece of paper. Hiruzen shook his head. "Minato, you've done 3 days worth of work in 2 days. When was the last time you ate?" Minato stopped and thought about it before looking to the clock. It said 3 p.m. He thought back. 8 hours ago? Hiruzen sighed. "Yes, Minato, you need a break." Minato seemed that he didn't want to for a moment before looking at Hiruzen's expression that told him he wasn't going to take no for an answer. Relenting, Minato stood. Grabbing his haori, he followed Hiruzen. Hiruzen walked out to a nearby barbecue spot where they'd both be provided meat to cook on their own. They reserved a spot for 2 people, as well as a platter of some of the finer meats and some sauces to go with it. Hiruzen led him to the table and sat down across from Minato. He let out a sigh and a smile. "Isn't this just the best, Minato?" Hiruzen asked as Minato sat down as well. "It's pretty good, yeah." Hiruzen took a deep breath through his nose. "You smell that? That's why this is my favorite restaurant. It's one thing to be served delicious food. It's another to make it yourself." "Then why go out at all? Why not stay home?" Minato asked. "Because it's fun. Surely you would know. All through my time grooming you for the Hokage position, you became the village authority of fun. Remember the time you wanted to throw a piñata party for my retirement?" "Yeah, it was going to be filled with sardine fish balls," Minato chuckled. "Looking back, I'm glad we didn't do that. It would have stank." The platter of food came. Hiruzen bowed his head. "We are grateful," he said. Minato following suit. Hiruzen then put some meat on the grill. Minato did as well. The sound of sizzling could be heard as Hiruzen watched the meat. "I like mine a little on the rarer side." He would pull some off once it had enough char. He dipped it into the soy sauce and took a bite. Minato followed suit. "So, about how much you've been working. You've worked more than enough to take a day or two. Go out to the movies or do something with Kushina. You can't work all the time." "I don't think so, Hiruzen. It's just best I keep going." A little silence ensued. Hiruzen then put a piece of meat onto the center of the grill over the hottest spot. He just watched it. Minato looked at him and the piece of meat. He put his own on and cooked it before eating it. By the time Minato was ready for another go-around, that piece of meat was still cooking. "I thought you liked it rare," Minato said. "I do," Hiruzen said as he watched the meat burn. "Well then, take it off, it's burning." Hiruzen spoke. "You know, we're like this meat." Minato looked up at Hiruzen with confusion. "Huh?" Hiruzen poked at the meat with his chopsticks. It was hard as rock, black as coal, and smelled like soot. "When a man works, he grills himself. The harder the job, the hotter the coals. The longer you're exposed to those coals, the more cooked you begin to feel, both inside and outside." Hiruzen picked it up and looked it over. "The job of Hokage is the hottest grill imaginable. Eat this piece of meat, Minato." "I'd rather not." "Exactly," Hiruzen said. "Nobody wants to eat this piece of barbecue. The taste is hellish. That's what's happening to you now, Minato. You're this piece of barbecue. You're cooking yourself till there's nothing left." Minato sighed. Hiruzen continued. "Minato, throwing yourself into work is a good distraction, and sometimes that's what people need. Distractions. Sometimes when you're not wanting to think about something, throwing yourself into your work stops being a chore and becomes more of a welcome relief. But the pain you feel is not removed, only masked. You do need to eventually realize that this isn't going to be sustainable forever. Overworking yourself can and will kill you, especially when you do it so you can neglect yourself in some degree." "I understand what you mean, Hiruzen, but is it not a good thing for me to throw myself into my work like this? Doesn't it help people?" "I don't think it does, Minato," Hiruzen said. "Just today, going into your office, I saw that you approved the budget for a personal clown for academy students." "Is that so wrong?" Minato asked. "No, not really, except you approved the budget for 15 of them. That's a whole circus, Minato. You're making the Ringling brothers an academic option in our schools." Minato thought about it. "I thought it would make the kids happy." Hiruzen smiled and shook his head. "It would, yes, but it's not something they need while in school. And even if it were so, we would only need one, and we could make it one of the teachers for heaven's sake. Minato, you're distracting yourself from the pain, but you're not dealing with the crisis in your heart, and it's making you sloppy. You can't run the village in this condition, nor can you fight a war like this. I know you're a tough man, Minato, but you need to admit that there's a problem, and you need to figure out how to fix it. That's the adult thing to do. You and your wife need to talk this out, and if that doesn't work, go to a therapist together. There's nothing shameful about taking care of yourself. But when others are in the same position as me, Minato asked. Nobody's in the same position as you, Minato. The only person who ever was myself. Konohamaru's father. He was my son. He was Asama's brother. He and his wife were both in the Third Shinobi World War together. I loved my son and I loved his wife too. They made me a grandfather. But right there toward the hairy end, they got themselves killed. It put a hole in my heart so large that I couldn't close it myself. It was because I refused to do anything with it that I lost my position. I sued for unconditional peace, something the rest of the village said was nothing short of surrender. I did it because I didn't want the war to continue out of fear I'd lose Asama too, or Konohamaru. I let my feelings subconsciously alter my decisions and made a mistake. I threw myself at my work and tried to avoid talking about it, and that led to one of the greater blunders in my whole career. I just don't want to see you make the same mistake. If I were you, or if I could go back to that time and do it all over again, I would have realized that it's okay to be human and leave the responsibilities to others when they could handle it and go get help myself. There's nothing wrong with that. A healthy Hokage means a healthy village. An unhealthy Hokage could be the death of a village. Does that make sense to you, Minato? Minato sighed. It does, but how can I do that now? Who can I leave the position to? Hiruzen sat forward. Minato, you have resources, and the village has failsafes just in case a situation like this does happen. One of those failsafes is me. If ever you're left unable to do your job, the position falls back to me temporarily until either you recover or a new Hokage is appointed. I'm healthy now, Minato. I won't screw this up again. You just need to give me the reins and take a break. Minato thought about it. You're right. I need to take a break. Do you think you can do this for me, Hiruzen? I really need it. Hiruzen smiled. Of course, Minato. And so the two finished their meal together. They each paid half of the bill and began to head out. Minato and Hiruzen would head back to the office. Once he entered it, Minato looked around. You sure you're up for this? Hiruzen laughed. Of course, my boy. I've been through far worse than this. You go pick up Kushina and have some fun. Hiruzen sat down at his desk. Immediately, the phone rang. Minato, curious as to what he would say, waited a moment. Hello? Yes. Yeah, he's... Oh. I'll tell him. Yes. Thank you. He hung up the phone. Minato, that was Makoto Uchiha. She called out from the shelter. Minato's eyes widened a little. Is everything okay? She said Kushina got sick and needed to go home, Hiruzen said. She was calling to tell you that you need to check up on her. You should go home now, Minato. Your wife needs you. Minato nodded. Thanks, Hiruzen. He then rushed out the door. Minato couldn't stop thinking about her. What could be wrong? Was she all right? He was halfway between a sprint and a jog as he made his way through the streets to their home. As he got to the door, he unlocked it and opened it up. Kushina! There was nothing. Ku? He closed the door behind him. The lights were off. He walked through the bottom floor and saw no lights. His heart began to beat a little louder. Kushina! He called out again. There was no answer. All the worst things began to run through his mind. He hopped over the railing of the stairs and began to run up them, nearly tripping twice. Kushina! There was a light on at the end of the hall in the bedroom. He entered the room. Ku? She wasn't there, but he heard a sound. Sniffling. It was coming from the bathroom. He walked over to it and opened the door to see Kushina sitting on the side of the tub beside the toilet. Her eyes were wide and full of tears. Minato walked over and quickly gazed into the toilet. There was no vomit, so maybe she was okay? He knelt down beside her. He looked at her face and pushed some of her red hair out of the way. Ku, are you okay? It was then that he realized she was trembling. Ku, are you having another panic attack? Are you okay? What do you need me to do to help you feel better? She looked at him and shook her head. It's too soon, she said. He was confused. What do you mean? Do you need me to give you some space? She shook her head again. She held up a pregnancy test that came back positive. It's too soon. Tears began to run down her cheeks. Minato's heart was filled with a myriad of different emotions, and all of them called forth tears at once. He kissed her cheek and hugged her. It's okay, Ku. Everything's okay. I promise. It was so dark. It was cold. It was so painful. It hurt so bad. Naruto tried to open his eyes. The sudden pain rushed through his body. Ah! He cried out. He tried to move, but the pain spiked further. Ah! He shouted as he sat back. I wouldn't do that, a voice said as Naruto began to settle. Naruto turned his head to the side in confusion. Who are you? A masked man was sitting by a throne. You can call me Toby. What happened? Naruto asked. You were on mission, sabotaging a bridge, planning to destroy it. Then that large fellow grabbed hold of you and attempted to kill himself, taking you with him. So then, I'm dead? He asked. The masked man got up off the chair and walked closer. No, far from it. You're alive, but you sustained various burns and injuries from the explosion. I had to personally reconstruct your body. That's the pain you're feeling now. Your nerves are connecting to this new flesh I grafted in. Naruto looked down and realized that both of his legs and much of his lower half were pale as a ghost, his right arm also being made of the same strange material. Don't worry, it's completely biological, grafted to your body, genetically altered to include your DNA. It's a miracle matter, to be honest, made of the cells of the greatest shinobi to ever live. Naruto looked up at the man. Why did you save me? Toby began to walk back to the throne. He sat down. Because I once laid in the bed you're laying in now. I saw a part of myself in you. I thought that maybe you could use a hand. Naruto was laying there. Thanks. I appreciate it. Did you somehow get the idea that I did this out of the goodness of my heart? Toby asked. No. I sympathize with you, yes, but I could also use you. You see, I have a plan that will end this wretched Fourth Shinobi World War, and I need you to help me. Now that everyone thinks you're dead and have moved on, I think you should be of plenty use to me. They won't think I'm dead for long. I plan to go back to Konoha. Toby laughed. You really think anyone there cares that you're gone? I'm sure people have greater worries on their mind than me, Naruto said, but I know my parents are surely missing me. I need to go to them and let them know that I'm okay. Toby chuckled. No, they've already moved on. Your parents have already started the process of replacing you. What? Naruto asked. Toby nodded with faux sympathy. News only hit a month ago, and already they've gotten themselves pregnant with a new child. I bet that's painful to hear, Toby said as his Sharingan began to spin. Naruto, looking into it, began to see a lot of things differently. That hurts so much, he said. I'm sure it does. Well, you're dead to them. Why not let them be dead to you and focus less on what once was and instead on what can be? There's a future for us, Naruto. A future without war. All you need to do is be strong enough to fight for it. Strong enough to fight for it. Toby sat there and watched as Naruto trained. Naruto had mastered his new body very well. His healing had been far quicker than Obito's ever had been. It took a while for him to understand why. Why was it that Naruto healed so quickly? What was with his ferocity and enhanced chakra reserves? Only in a moment where Naruto entered a flow state in battle against the other Zetsu did Obito truly understand. Naruto possessed the power of the Nine Tails. How was this possible? Naruto was not the Jinchuriki, Kushina was. It was only then that Obito had realized that the secret was that the Nine Tails' power reserves were just so vast that everyone born of the Jinchuriki had a chance to inherit some of its power from the host. Perhaps more than one could know. Just to pause here for a second, I didn't actually just pull this out of my rear. You see, Himawari in Boruto now possesses the Nine Tails' power. It was never disclosed how, but instead of regenerating inside of Naruto or even regenerating in the open world, somehow Kurama regenerated inside of Himawari of all people. Now, perhaps that's just Kishimoto being Kishimoto, but it was never really explained how this works, and so I'm left to assume that it could possibly be. And one theory of mine is that due to the Nine Tails being so strong compared to the other beasts, when Naruto and Hinata conceived Himawari, their two chakras mixed, but the Nine Tails' chakra likely also got thrown in there as well. That chakra being significant enough for Himawari to become the next Jinchuriki due to the Nine Tails regenerating inside of her instead of it being sealed. It makes me wonder how far that can go, and considering that Sora became a user of Tailed Beast power simply by having just residual chakra left behind by the Nine Tails sealed into him, it stands to reason that on rare occasions, though not a technical Jinchuriki, children may inherit the power of the Nine Tails from their parents. At least, that's the logic I'm working off of, and slightly convinced it's canon. So I just felt that I owed you all an explanation as to why I'm doing this. Anyway, back to the story. It was indeed an interesting thing for Obito to realize that just as the Gold and Silver brothers of old had contained within themselves a fraction of the Nine Tails' might, so too might Naruto through birthright. This offered many a possibility. Currently looking at the boy, he noted that Naruto possessed jet black hair as opposed to the jarring blonde he so naturally had, and the secret was not that he had forced Naruto to change his hair color due to the need to hide from the rest of the world. The truth of the matter was that Naruto's hair had naturally done this. It just turned black one day. Obito surmised that Naruto's own darkness seated inside of him had been awakened, and that maybe that was what caused it. Hatred produced a strange, dark chakra within people, and it was this dark chakra that awakened inside of the Uchiha their Mangekyo Sharingan. Hatred caused physiological changes, but while the changes were striking, they weren't always dangerous. One could go into the philosophical meaning of the Mangekyo Sharingan and why its representation of hatred made the eye go blind with use, just as the human heart grew colder with each expression of hatred. But Obito was not about to do so. All he knew was that his hair had changed. The fact that it had done so was not a surprise to Obito, though. You see, Obito had all but convinced Naruto to give in to his deepest anguish, his anxieties and his anger, his hatred. Doing so was not easy, as Naruto had a naturally upbeat personality that never wanted to give in to such things. Naruto always wanted to believe, so Obito had to cheat. Obito utilized the power of his Sharingan to convince Naruto to give in. The same way Obito had cast Mizukage Yagura under Genjutsu and changed the way he acted to fit his needs, Obito had done to Naruto. And now, Naruto, his defenses having been completely bypassed, was becoming the perfect weapon to use against the Hidden Leaf Village. It was cruel indeed to force a boy to kill his own parents, but the truth did exist that they already had, on purpose or not, gotten themselves pregnant with a new baby. Such a thing was disrespectful to the supposedly dead, and so, in a way, Obito used that to excuse it. Obito could not force Naruto to do anything unless the pain was already there for him to use as a foundation. The very fact that Naruto was currently under Tobi's control now was a testament to the pain he had tried to hide. All Obito had to do was bolster it, make Naruto feel it even worse while attempting to silence any voice of reason within him. And now, Naruto's pain was a well-oiled machine. All Tobi had to do was sit back and watch as Naruto's own latent potential was expanded by hard work and the Hashirama Senju cells. Good, good. Continue to grow. Continue to strengthen yourself. The power you possess can and will topple the world. Despite not being a true Jinchuriki, Naruto possessed the power to surpass all Nine-Tails Jinchuriki up to this point. Maybe it was because the true personality of the Nine-Tails did not sleep within him, but Naruto's control over the Tailed Beast energy, as well as his mingling with the cells of Hashirama Senju, had produced something almost akin to Six Paths power. It reminded Obito of the Six Paths of Pain that had once been used by Nagato. There was something sleeping within this boy, a power and potential to surpass even the Sage of Six Paths entirely, and Obito couldn't have been more pleased. With this power, soon every tailed beast that exists will be ours, and when that is so, the entire world will be under our rule, and then the peace I have long sought for will finally come to pass. Minato was sitting in his office doing his paperwork as he so normally did. He had a lot on his mind, but that was nothing new. Minato, however, didn't seem to be in too bad of a mood. While the pain of Naruto's loss still existed within his heart, Minato felt as though now he were healing. The burning pain in his heart was slowly being soothed by time. Time was healing all wounds as it normally did. It probably helped a bit, though, that he didn't have to face it and think about it every day. When he was at work, he had to face the issues pertaining to the village, and when he was at home, he had to face the issues pertaining to the new baby that was so very close to being here. Hiruzen had told him that throwing oneself into work to hide the pain was not healthy, and this was true. But what was happening now was that work and these other priorities were taking up much of Minato's time, allowing himself to more healthily come to terms with reality. The stages of grief were a track that had to be run by all those who experienced loss, but the welcome distractions of fatherhood and Hokage-ship offered a time to rest from the hurt, which made the transition from each stage more bearable at least. Not to mention that since pregnancy, Kushina and Minato had finally taken Hiruzen up on that advice to speak with a professional counselor. Whether she was a quack or not, Minato didn't know, but what he did know was having someone listen to he and Kushina felt good. To be able to at least sit and talk about the pain bottled up inside, to have Kushina hear what he was saying, to hear the counselor hear it, and having Kushina release all that was pent up as well, it just felt good. Venting was a beautiful thing, and perhaps that was the main advantage of the counselor. Minato knew he could release all of his deepest, darkest emotions, all the pain and weakness he couldn't show anyone else, and know that it would be safe. And that's exactly what he'd been doing. Minato and Kushina had been able to talk about their pains, and because of that, Minato was beginning to feel that he had proper balance again. This pain. There was a time to let the raw feelings out, and then there was a time to conceal them. And because of this month-by-month ongoing process, Minato was beginning to feel back to his old self again. But he wasn't the only one healing from the situation. A knock could be heard at the door. "Come in," Minato shouted. The handle jiggled, turned, and slowly began to be pushed open. From outside came Kakashi. "Oh, Kakashi, welcome. What can I do for you?" "Team 7 mission report," Kakashi said. "Yamato reports that Team 7's mission to the Land of Water has been successful, and that the feudal lord of the island of Nareda Inu has vowed to stand with Konoha and advocate for us in the halls of the Mizukage." Minato smiled. "That's great," he said. He sat back as Kakashi placed the report on his desk. As he did, he noticed the white flesh hidden under his fingerless glove. "How's your new body treating you?" he asked. Kakashi pulled his hand back and looked at it. "It's doing well. The burning pains have finally stopped. I think the nerves are all finally attached properly. I'm still in the process of rehab, but the physical therapist said that very soon I could return to duty. I'm currently working on regaining my physical strength." Minato nodded. As he thought about it, he recalled how Hiruzen had called in Tsunade as a personal favor to help Kakashi, and how the spoils they had taken from their capture of one of Orochimaru's hideouts had provided to them the substance comprised of cells of Hashirama Senju, as well as some other thing that could only be considered tofu-like tree matter, something that had been discovered to be a reasonable replacement for limbs. It was capable of healing wounds quickly, easily graftable, and best of all, there seemed to be no chance of rejection for the host. It was a miracle matter, and perhaps the best thing Orochimaru had ever developed. They weren't quite sure how he did it, but they managed to let it regrow all by itself. All it took was a little bit of chakra to begin the process, something Tsunade likened to an advanced version of her creation rebirth technique. Using it to form new legs and a new arm for Kakashi, it at the very least helped Kakashi to return to something close to a normal life. "It's easy to forget that it's not the same arm and legs I once had," Kakashi said. "The only thing that gives it away is the color." Minato nodded. "Your physical wounds are almost healed. In the old times, this sort of thing would have been unheard of. A miracle. You're very lucky, Kakashi." "I know, Minato-sensei," Kakashi said. Minato stood there and continued to take in the full view of his student. "What about the deeper wounds? The ones people can't see?" Kakashi stood there solemnly. "Those ones don't feel like they'll ever heal. The shame I feel is immense. When I was younger, I always worried that I'd be subject to the same scorn that my father was, or feel the same as he did." "Do you?" Minato asked. Kakashi looked down. "To say that I haven't had those kinds of thoughts would be a lie." "And what have you been doing about them?" Minato asked. Kakashi looked up with a bit of a smile. "I've set my pride aside. I've been talking with the counselor. They told me that when I feel this way, I shouldn't panic because it will pass. And it always does." Minato stood up and walked around the table, putting his hands on Kakashi's shoulders. "Kakashi, Kushina and I have long since forgiven you for anything you think you possibly could have done wrong. We don't think you did anything wrong, but for the sake of argument, just to say you ever did, Kushina and I have agreed that you're forgiven. Now we just want you to forgive yourself. It's just been so hard, Minato-sensei. Every team I join. Trust me in this, Kakashi. You're not alone. Rin and Obito were on my team as well. Where you are now, I once stood. I used to visit Obito's grandmother every weekend before her passing. I blamed myself for it. I still visit Rin's parents. This is just part of the duty, a burden we all carry. But I will give you the one thing that nobody else ever gave me." Minato then hugged Kakashi. "It wasn't your fault. You are a good man. You are a good team leader. Anything you could have done wrong is forgiven. Forgive yourself, please. For my sake." Kakashi struggled to hold back tears. He wasn't normally a very emotional man, but all the pain and death he had ever faced was now cropping up in front of him, and to have relief from the guilt and pain brought him to tears. Hugging his mentor, Kakashi felt as if the wounds in his heart that could not be healed by these Hashirama cells were finally closing. As Minato pulled away, he smiled. "I think that we need to celebrate. Your health is restored, and I want to take you out to eat. How does that sound? Care for some ramen? Maybe we'll have an eating contest. See who can pack away more. We'll have a competition to name the Glutton King of Konoha. How does that sound?" "I suppose that sounds okay. We can head out in a moment. I'll call Kushina. She can meet us at Ichiraku." Minato walked over to grab the phone, but as soon as his fingers lighted upon it, the machine began to ring. Minato was surprised. He answered it. "Hello? Lord Forth," came the voice of Makoto Uchiha. "Yes? Is everything all right, Makoto?" Minato asked. "Yes, everything is perfectly under control." "Under control? There's a situation?" Minato asked, feeling his blood pressure rising. Well, yes, but it's not a bad one. I was out helping Kushina shop for groceries and it seems her water broke. She's going into labor. Don't worry, I followed protocol and signaled the Anbu. They've already got her en route to the birthing location. Ms. Biwako Saratobi is on her way, as is a sealing unit and the best doctors in Konoha. The only thing we're waiting for is you. Minato felt as though he might puke, but he tried to keep his cool. Thanks for explaining it to me, Makoto. I'll be there soon. Makoto audibly smiled, her voice echoing that she was happy on the other end. No problem, Minato. Just promise me you'll stay calm. I promise I'll stay with your wife until you get here. I've had 2 children myself, don't worry. The second time is always easier than the first. She's strong, and we're even more prepared than last time. Everything is okay. Minato wasn't made any less nervous, but he appreciated the effort. I understand. Thank you, Makoto. I'll be there in a moment. Bye. He hung up the phone. Taking a deep breath, he looked to Kakashi. We might need to postpone your celebration. Kushina just went into labor. I need to get to her. Kakashi understood. I'll go with you. He offered Minato a hand. Minato took it and stood up. The two of them began to make their way to the location. It was the same place Kushina had given birth in before. Walking up to the cave-like structure, he saw a large golden force field set up by the Fuinjutsu team. Within the barrier were Anbu who verified the identity of Minato and Kakashi, welcoming them in. The barrier went back up. After the bodies that were discovered the last time Kushina had given birth, Minato wanted to upgrade security to ensure nothing like that ever happened again, and so secrecy was discarded in preference to fortification. To that end, when the barrier went up, they knew that Kushina would need to go fast to reduce the chances that something could go wrong. So as soon as Minato arrived, they began to induce labor so that the process might begin and end as quickly as possible. Once Minato was there, he got into position to keep the seal closed. This wasn't any different than before, and because he had done it once, the process of keeping the Ninetales in would be easier. All he had to do was reinforce what was already there, and thanks to previous experience, he knew exactly how to do it. As Kushina began to push, Minato focused his power into the seals. I see the baby, Biwako said. It should please the parents to know its hair is red this time. Minato let off a nervous smile but continued to control the seal. Kushina likely didn't even hear it. She was too consumed in the pain and action. Everything is looking good, Biwako said. Now all you have to do is push. Kushina let out a scream as she pushed as hard as she could. Suddenly, as Kushina's cries died out, a new cry could be heard. Biwako then spoke. It's a girl! Swaddling the baby, she brought it up to Kushina and Minato, who looked her over. What's the name gonna be? She asked. Minato looked at Kushina, whose eyes sparkled with wonder at this new child in her arms. Her hair is red, just like yours. Deep red. Are we still gonna name her Akane? Minato asked. Kushina thought it over. Akane was a word that meant deep red, a reference to the color of her hair. But no, Kushina did not feel like that name fit the child any longer. This child. It's brought hope to my eyes, a belief that my life isn't over and that love hasn't failed. She's been a beacon in the night to a lost ship sailing across a sea of sorrow. She's a lodestar, a glowing moon giving me guidance, leading me home. My bright red jewel. Minato was surprised. I never knew you as one who could be so poetic, Kushina. She looked at her husband with a smile. She's brought light back into my life. I wish to name her after light. Akari. Her name will be Akari. Minato smiled. Akari. I love it. Giving a kiss to both his wife and the newborn baby, the swaddled bundle of joy found love in the arms of her parents. Obito was viewing these happenings through his crystal ball, a tool similar to that which the Hokage once had so commonly used. So, they've given birth to that child then. He looked over at Naruto, who sat a ways off in the darkness, his eyes obscured by the shadow of his hanging black hair. Do you wish to see your replacement? Obito asked. Naruto looked up, his eyes filled with tears, knowing that everything that he had somehow deep down hoped was a lie was coming to pass. Naruto nervously rose to his feet and began to make his way over. Looking into the crystal ball, he saw Minato and Kushina hugging a red-headed baby closely. In that moment, whatever resistance in his heart that remained was gone. Obito knew that Naruto was holding on to the idea that everything he was told was a lie. It was his final defense. The last threat to his fall into utter darkness. What few blonde sprigs of hair that remained finally turned to complete darkness, signifying his complete spiritual defeat. Obito, below his mask, couldn't help but smile. I'm so sorry, Naruto, he said. Naruto looked away. Walking off toward his quarters, his sorrowful expression turned to one of anger, his red, flaming, fox-slit eyes burning in the shadows. He spoke. No, I'm sorry. Days passed, as did weeks, eventually months. The rush of becoming a new parent had not seeped out of their minds. Minato and Kushina both had a new lease on life, it felt. Darkness had been chased away by light, and now that Akari was here, Minato had a new pep in his step. It was one that everyone noticed, including Hiruzen. "Well, I'm glad you're feeling better," Hiruzen said. "I am. I guess nothing puts a pep in your step quite like becoming a father again." Hiruzen offered a chuckle and then a laugh. "Minato, you really are a different kind of fellow." Hiruzen sat down in a nearby chair. "So, how's the war front?" Hiruzen asked. "Anything new happening?" Minato nodded. "Intelligence says that the other great nations are losing their tailed beasts. The ninja villages won't admit to it, but moles in each of the villages have confirmed that yes, they've lost their Jinchuriki." "What do you suppose that means?" Hiruzen asked. Minato shook his head. "I'll be honest with you, Hiruzen, I don't know. A part of me is hoping that someone on our side is taking them over to help us out, but I doubt that we'd be so lucky." Hiruzen nodded. "It is concerning, but regardless, it's something we can capitalize off of." "Indeed we can," Minato said. "Without their tailed beasts, they've lost a large portion of their firepower. Their deterrents are gone. We could use the Nine Tails to threaten them, hopefully force a surrender." Hiruzen nodded. "Indeed, but for now let's put this aside. I feel like it's time we celebrate." "Celebrate?" Minato asked. "Yes, you're a new father. Kakashi is finally back on duty leading Team 7. The war is starting to look like it's heading for a peaceful solution. I don't see why we shouldn't celebrate." Minato smiled. "You know what? Yeah, let's celebrate." And so, Minato and Hiruzen went out with Kushina and Kakashi, and many other friends to celebrate all of the good fortune that had come in their direction. They partied pretty hard, and that night, Akari slept through the entire night. Minato felt truly blessed to be able to get this chance at rest, but as Gandalf once said, the silence is merely the deep breath before the plunge. And that is what Minato was about to discover. You see, he was correct in saying that Konoha would not be so lucky as to have an ally in the pilfering of the tailed beasts. No, it had been Naruto doing so the whole time. Naruto had been gathering the beasts, starting from 1 going to 8, each one getting harder and harder still, forcing himself to come up with new techniques and ways of fighting just to get around the defenses of those who housed the beasts. But as he took each one, they became a sign of his growth, his prowess, a test passed. And now, only one remained, the Nine Tails, one to be taken from the woman who had given birth to him, the woman he had disowned. Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, his once mother. And currently, as the morning was closing in on midday, he stood there by the edge of the village, looking in. Obito stood by his side and spoke. "Go to the center of the village, cause your ruckus and lure out your father. During that time, I'll find your mother, and I will take the Nine Tails from her." "No, I'll take the Nine Tails," Naruto said. "I've trained and fought just to get to this point. It's my birthright to take it from her. I will do it." "You will do as you're told," Obito chastised him. "Do not forget who made you what you are, and who can unmake you. This is your chance at revenge, but I will claim the prize. Every tailed beast you took is not a trophy to you, but a trophy to me. Never forget that without me you'd be dead." In truth, Obito did not wish for Naruto to come into contact with Kushina. It was a fear of his that if Naruto managed to see his mother and the wrong thing were to be said, it might lead to Naruto breaking the genjutsu. "Do you have your mask?" Obito asked. Naruto raised the mask of a fox to his face and affixed it there. Obito nodded. "Good. Now go and lay waste to this village. Cause a distraction. I will take the beast and leave. I will let you know when I'm done." "And when you're finished, what are your orders for me?" Naruto asked. "My orders are to do what makes you pleased. If grinding this place to dust beneath your feet or the murder of your father is what you desire, then my order is for you to do so. When you're finished spoiling yourself, return to our base of operations. We will begin the final sealing and the awakening of the Ten Tails." Obito then disappeared through Kamui. Naruto, standing up, still looking down on the village, felt his heart jump at the idea of bringing to ruin everything that had destroyed his heart. From here, he jumped down, heading to the center of the village. Minato sat at his desk, looking out the window, his heart filled with peace. Life was finally rewarding again, and the deep breaths he took were filled with joy and pleasure, like the perfect warmth of a spring night just a month or so away from summertime. A calm expectation of a joyous time outside, relaxation on the porch after a delicious supper, a glass of sweet tea in your hand. That was the feeling Minato experienced right now. It was then that Kakashi opened the door behind him. "You called for me, Minato-sensei." Minato turned around. "Indeed I did. I wanted to give Team 7 a special mission." "Oh?" Kakashi questioned. "What kind of mission do you have in mind?" "I want you and your team to deliver under the white flag of parley a message to the Raikage. The message is a call for surrender, a promise of fair treatment, and a return to the brotherhood we once shared. He pushed the scroll forward. And what should happen if they do not respect the white flag and instead attempt to kill us? Minato sat back in his chair. I have confidence in you and Team 7's abilities. You've survived worse scrapes, but don't worry, I have Team Guy and Team Kurenai on standby. If you need help, they will cover you for your escape. Kakashi picked up the scroll and placed it into his flak jacket. As you wish, Lord Fourth. Minato smiled. I wanted to let you know that I'm proud of you, Kakashi, Minato said. Kakashi smiled under his mask. Thank you, Minato-sensei. It means a lot. Just as Kakashi was about to leave, though, there was a horrendous sound that came from outside. Kakashi looked back and out the window. Minato, still in his chair, swiveled it up around to see what was happening. Outside, there was a large explosion. Minato stood up. Grabbing his flak jacket and his haori, he began to grab his tools. Stepping outside with Kakashi, people ran by screaming. Some covered in blood, others simply in soot. Are we under attack? Kakashi asked. Minato nodded. I think so. He looked back. I'm going to ask you something important, Kakashi. I need you to listen. Kakashi nodded. Anything. Minato then began to explain to him what he needed to do. Naruto stood in the center of the village. Forming in his hand a dark-colored Rasengan, it began to spin, a ring appearing around it. Having merged his wind nature with his Rasengan, he had created this attack he called the Spiraling Ring. Throwing it into a nearby building, it detonated spectacularly, eradicating any sign that a building had ever been there. Nearby, many creatures lingered, each possessing a mask of their own. These 9 creatures went about terrorizing the village. It was at this point that Minato appeared, kunai in hand. Who are you? And what business do you have here in Konoha? Naruto did not respond to him, only creating another spiraling ring. He ran at Minato, throwing it. Minato managed to jump over it, and as he did, the edge of his haori was cut apart by the attack. As he landed, he watched the sphere explode in the distance. He was shocked by it. Another technique based on a tailed beast ball. He wondered. Turning back, he was struck back by a kick from his new adversary. Elsewhere, in Kushina's home, she peeked outside, having heard the distant thuds and blasts of explosions. She walked back into the main living area and turned on the TV to see if she could get any report on what was happening, but it seemed as though all of the local channels were out, and no other channel seemed to be containing any news about what was happening. What's going on, she wondered. Suddenly, a hand laid upon her shoulder. She felt her blood run cold. Turning back, she saw the familiar face of Kakashi. Come on, Lady Kushina. I'm supposed to take you to a safe house, he said. Kushina let out a sigh of relief. Kakashi, you scared me. My apologies, milady, but Minato-sensei ordered me to get you to safety, and that's what I intend to do. As she got up, she went up the stairs to grab Akari in her arms, swaddling her to keep her warm from the chill outside. Kakashi grabbed a coat and put it on her and began to lead her out. But as they were leaving the village, they were stopped by another. A man in an orange swirling mask lay before them. Kakashi could tell that this was trouble. Holding his hand back, he spoke. Miss Kushina, be ready to run. If I fail, I want you to run as fast as you can to the Uchiha compound. Lord Fugaku will protect you. Kakashi then began to make his way forward. Is this attack your doing? He asked the mysterious shinobi. The man looked around. Maybe a little. Returning his gaze to Kakashi, he spoke. You know, you don't have to throw your life away here. Step aside and let me take the woman and you can make it out of here with your life. I'd rather die, Kakashi said. The man smiled. A man on a mission, willing to sacrifice anything to protect someone close to the Hokage. Let's hope you don't fail again. What do you mean by that? Kakashi asked. The man shrugged. I suppose your imagination is yours. He began to approach. Kakashi walked forward, leaving Kushina behind him. Keep your eyes open, he told her without removing his gaze from the man headed in their direction. Coming within arm's length of the man, Kakashi was now in a defensive stance, his Sharingan exposed and gleaming red in the sunlight. Holding a kunai in his hand, he went to strike the man, only for his fist to pass through. Suddenly, the man pushed a kunai into his stomach. Kakashi gasped and fell into the man's shoulder. As I said, you didn't have to throw your life away so recklessly. And now you have proven yet again why you're so stupid, Kakashi. The man let Kakashi fall to the ground. He continued to approach Kushina. Her face was covered in terror as she stepped away from him. She held her baby tight, preparing to cover it with her own body should the man attack. As the masked individual's hand reached out to grab her, suddenly it disappeared as the man was warped away. Kushina looked up to see Kakashi pulling a kunai out of his stomach. He began to walk over to her. Kakashi, you're okay? She asked. He nodded. My body contains Hashirama Senju cells. It's gonna take a lot more than that to put me out of commission. Suddenly, from behind, the man reappeared from a swirling portal in space-time. Kakashi began to understand. This man is a user of the same type of technique as my Kamui. He looked to Kushina. Get ready to run. I'm gonna warp this guy out. When I do, get to the Uchiha compound as quickly as you can. He looked back at the man who was dusting off his hands. The man picked up the discarded kunai that still had some residual blood from Kakashi on it. "I suppose we both underestimated the other," he said. "Round 2 starts now then." Kakashi once more approached the fellow. As he began to strike out, his hands passed through harmlessly. That was when Kakashi began to understand that this man was using Kamui to make himself intangible, warping away certain parts of his body just as he was being struck. An ingenious use of the technique, but now that Kakashi understood how it worked, he could counter it. As Kakashi began attacking again, his strikes began to land, startling his masked adversary. "So you've figured it out, have you, Kakashi? Fine. The advantages are all neutralized, but regardless, I can still defeat you." It was then that Kakashi grabbed onto the man. Together with him, he teleported to the Kamui dimension. It was then that Kushina turned around and began to book it toward the Uchiha compound. As Minato rolled back, he stood, holding 2 Rasengan, and he pushed them into the chests of the Hokuto Sennin and Nanto Sennin masked beasts, causing them to fly off in another direction, returning to the miniature kitsune that they had once been. Minato was then pounced upon by the white tiger beast. Laying on the ground, his hands reaching out to grab the paws of the tiger, he called upon his sage mode to give him the strength to hold up all 500 pounds of muscle that was bearing down upon him. Getting his foot lodged in the beast's belly, he kicked as hard as he could, knocking it off of him. As it laid there, he stood and formed another Rasengan. The tiger rushed at him, jumping out. Minato pressed the Rasengan into the creature's face, shattering the mask and leaving the tiger there defeated, returning to its natural form. Minato stood. Behind him, there were plenty of little masked foxes. The last remaining masked beasts were Tenyo and Shinigami. As they came at him, Naruto supplemented their attacks by throwing 2 spiraling spheres. Minato saw them coming and knew that this was his chance. Holding his hands out, he got into a defensive position. Jumping at an angle, he avoided both spheres. He then held out his hand while he was still in the air and touched the dark orbs with his chakra-laced hands, laying claim to the enemy's attack. Hitting the ground, he struggled with the momentum, but this was his chance. Turning around, he redirected the attacks back at the 2 masked creatures, defeating them as well. However, before the smoke could settle, Naruto rushed through with a roar. Engaging his father in taijutsu, he began to push him back. Minato attempted to lock his adversary in an armbar. However, Naruto rolled out of it before sweeping Minato's legs and kicking him down the road away. Minato laid there for a second. "You've got skill," he said. "Or maybe I just know your every trick, old man," Naruto replied. Both raised back to their feet, ready for the next round. Kushina made it to the Uchiha compound. There, she entered the home of Fugaku, where she found Makoto. "Kushina, are you all right?" she asked. Kushina nodded. "Yes, but something's happening. I need you to watch Akari." She put the baby into Makoto's arms. "Ku!" she shouted. "Why are you going back out there?" Kushina looked back from the door. "Something's going on. I don't know what it is, but something's happening and I need to be there for it. Minato needs me right now. Please, watch over Akari. And if I don't come back..." Makoto's face grew sterner. "You better come back." Kushina nodded. She ran out the door. Makoto looked down at the baby in her arms. "Don't worry. Your mama will be home soon." Kakashi and the masked man fought in the dark void of Kamui. Beneath their feet were only strange cubes of unknowable length. They had essentially been transferred to the PlayStation 2 startup screen, and upon this large expanse that seemed to go on forever, Kakashi and the masked man continued to fight, exchanging blows. "You know, the day that I got to kill you personally has been all that's on my mind for these many years." "Who even are you?" Kakashi demanded. "How do you know so much about me?" The masked man scoffed. "You really want to know?" It was then that he raised his hand to his face and gripped his mask. He pulled it away, revealing his true identity as Obito Uchiha, the former teammate of Kakashi from Team Minato. "Obito?" Kakashi asked in surprise. "How? I watched you die." "The reports of my death were greatly exaggerated. You were neither there to see me take my last breath, nor did you attempt to recover my body. I guess that's how little I meant to you." Obito then moved in for an attack, hoping that the shock of this revelation would continue to keep Kakashi off kilter. Despite that, almost in an instinctual manner, Kakashi avoided the attack. The battle continued. Minato stood there, trying to catch his breath. His adversary was doing the same. At about that time, Kushina ran up between them. "Minato!" she shouted. Minato, horrified by her appearance, scolded her. "Kushina, you're supposed to be at the safe house." "Something's wrong, Minato," she said. "I don't know what it is, but I sense something wrong." "You're right. Everything is wrong," Naruto said, his identity still concealed. "Everything is wrong with you and him. Damn that Uchiha and damn his goals. I'll kill you with my own bare hands." He formed a spiraling sphere and rushed toward Kushina with it. Minato, forming a Rasengan, cried out and rushed out to meet them. Kushina, standing there between them, saw it all unfolding as if time had come to a crawl. Minato, utilizing the flying Raijin seal he had incorporated into Kushina's 8 trigram seal, gained a slight speed advantage. Putting his arm around her, he pushed her behind him. He then pushed his Rasengan forward to collide with his enemy's spiraling sphere. There was a bright flash, and then a loud explosion that pushed all affected parties back. Minato flew through the air with Kushina. He wrapped his body around her as they rolled. When they came to a stop, he looked at her. "Are you okay?" he asked. Kushina was mortified. "Minato, your arm." Minato looked down and saw that his left arm had been blown away to just below the elbow. "I'm okay, but you need to get out of here," he said. "No, not without you." She stood and tried to raise him off of the ground. As she tried to carry him away over her shoulder, she stopped when she felt something off. Looking back toward the smoke left behind by the explosion, she saw the shadow of a person approaching. As the smoke cleared, she saw the individual. His mask had been destroyed in the explosion, as had his cloak, exposing the pasty white skin that comprised half of his body. His right arm, also pasty white, sloughed off from his body due to the damage it had taken. Kushina, though, wasn't as surprised by this as she was by his visage. Though his hair was now black, his appearance gave away exactly who he was. Together, the two parents spoke in unison as they understood who it was that stood before them. Naruto. He grit his teeth as he grew closer. As he limped closer toward them, blood dripped from his mouth as he shattered molars under the intense pressure created by his jaw. His rage boiled out through blood and tears. "I hate you!" he shouted at them. The sound of his voice carried out over the whole village, echoing out, demanding silence from even the crackling flames. "I hate your guts! I just want you to die! Just die!" Kushina shook her head. "Naruto, what are you doing? Why are you doing this?" Naruto stood there, his body trembling with anger. Why am I doing this? I'll tell you why. Because I want you to suffer. I want you to suffer and die. I want to see your graves and spit on them, to piss on the headstone that I'll carve out. Here lies the worst parents in the world. Burn in hell, you won't be missed." Minato heard this and was confused. "I'm confused. You're not thinking right, Naruto. Someone has you under control." "No, they don't," Naruto shouted. I thought you loved me." "We do love you," Kushina said. Naruto shook his head. "No, you don't. Don't lie to me." "What could we have ever done that would make you think that?" Minato asked. Naruto wiped tears from his face. "You want to know what? How about replacing me?" "Replacing you? We never replaced you." "Yes, you did," Naruto said. "Not even a month after you thought me dead, you were already pregnant again. I was ready to come home, but I had no home to come back to. My room was already cleared out, my things in the dumpster." "We never threw anything out," Kushina cried, tears running from her eyes. "You think we planned the baby? It was an accident." Naruto scoffed. "An accident? What a phrase! You mean you didn't mean to make a baby?" "No, you said accident." "Have you ever loved any child you brought into this world?" "That's enough, Naruto. Don't speak to your mother that way," Minato said as he rose to his feet. "Don't speak to her that way." "Okay, let me speak to you that way then. You're trash, Dad. What matters to you was never me. It was never the new baby. The day I died, you were working. The day you learned of my death, you were working. You never stopped working. Well, now you'll stop. And stop breathing, too." Minato, with his one good hand, gripped a kunai. "Demons are in your head, boy. I'll beat them out personally." Naruto scoffed. "No, the only one with a demon in them is my mother, and I plan to take that out of her and give it to my master." It was then that all of the masked beasts returned to Naruto, each one turning to a crimson light that shot across the field. Each impact almost seemed painful, as if they were throwing Naruto off balance, but once they had all been reabsorbed, a smile returned to his face. "You're not the only one who's been cultivating a beast of hatred, Mom. Every tailed beast I captured, I pulled a little chakra from them to feed my energy without my master knowing. And now I have a new nine tails, one far stronger than yours." Raising his fingers into the tiger sign, suddenly from below Naruto, a massive black nine-tailed fox appeared. Minato looked at Kushina. "Get out of here. I'll deal with our son." "No, Minato. I won't let you two kill each other. Something's wrong with him. He's not thinking clearly." Minato looked at her and then back to Naruto. "He's gonna kill people, Ku. I don't know what else to do." Kushina then spoke. "I'll help you, Minato. We're taking him home with us this time. I don't care what I have to do. I'll die if I have to, but I'm taking him home." "How are we supposed to deal with this though, Kushina?" Minato asked. "It's the Nine Tails and I'm nearly incapacitated." Kushina smiled. "When I was about to take the Nine Tails into myself, Lady Mito told me the only thing that could control the Nine Tails was love. I love that boy up there. I love him more than anything. I will use the Nine Tails to match him. And when I get close enough, Minato, you have to free him." Minato seemed nervous, but what else could he do? If he did nothing, then Naruto would destroy the whole village. Okay, he said. Kushina then opened the gate, allowing the Nine-Tails to take its form in her. As she rose up, her mind infused with the body of the orange-furred fox, she let Minato ride atop her head. As the two beasts stood there facing each other down, Naruto smiled. But as a moment passed, his smile turned to rage. Letting out a roar, he drove his Nine-Tails forward. Kushina charged as well. The two collided head-on as the battle began in earnest. The fate of all of Konoha at stake. In the Kamui dimension, Kakashi stood there, trying to catch his breath. His sleeve torn, his arm was exposed. "I see you know my pain then," Obito said, ripping his own sleeve off. "The Shinobi War chewed both of us up and spat us out. I seek to change that by ending war as a whole. When I get the Nine-Tails, I will have gathered all tailed beasts, and then we'll be able to awaken the Ten-Tails. With it, I'll be able to destroy the system that's ensnared us all. It's too bad you won't be alive to see it." "What caused this, Obito? Why are you doing this?" Obito thought back on it. "Remember Rin? Remember when I charged you to protect her? You failed me. You failed her. Maybe everyone else has forgiven you, and maybe you've even forgiven yourself, but I'll never forgive you. I won't rest until you lie dead at my feet." As Obito stood there, he then proceeded to create lightning release around his hand. "And I'll even use the same technique to do it." Kakashi looked down. "Don't make me do this, Obito." Obito shook his head. "You have no choice but to die, Kakashi. Now die." Kakashi formed a Chidori as well. Suddenly, the two rushed at each other. As they did, their hands were outstretched, ready to pierce the other. As Obito's hand reached Kakashi's chest, it pushed through. Kakashi stood there silently for a moment as the Chidori came out his back. Obito smiled. He had done it. He'd gotten his revenge. But the longer he basked in it, the more he came to realize that something was wrong. Where was the blood? Suddenly, Kakashi's hand passed through Obito's chest, piercing his heart. Obito was surprised. "How?" Kakashi seemed saddened by this turn of events. "The same technique you used to make yourself intangible. I did the same. I cast Kamui on your arm. It passed through me safely. Intangible." Pulling his hand free, Obito fell to the ground with a gurgle. Kakashi caught him and held him there. "Why did it have to be this way, Obito?" Obito looked at him. The day Rin died, I died too. This was always what it would come to. I was merely a dead man walking. And now, the deed you started in that bog is finished." Obito passed away in Kakashi's arms. Kakashi bowed his head, eyes overrun with tears. As the two Nine-Tails clashed, Minato held on for dear life. The village was taking damage. He needed this dealt with quickly. As the two-tailed beasts stabilized, Minato stood. Taking a deep breath, he prayed for strength in his legs. Running forward down the snout, he jumped as far as he could out to the other Nine-Tails. There he met his son, punching him in the face. Naruto rolled down the beast's back, down its tails, before hitting the ground. He stood, ready to continue the fight, when all of a sudden he cried out in agony, grabbing his head. The Nine-Tails disappeared, causing Minato to fall. Kushina reached out and grabbed Minato with her large claw. Seeing that the battle was over, she forced the Nine-Tails back into its cage, reassuming her smaller, humanoid form. She and Minato approached Naruto with caution. He screamed out as suddenly the blackness of his hair returned to the gold it always had been. Falling on his face, they held him up. "Naruto! Naruto!" Checking for a pulse, they were glad to find that he had one. As his eyes opened, he spoke. "Mom? Dad? I had such a terrible nightmare." Minato smiled. "I know, but you're awake now." Rebuilding the village was a task in and of itself, but eventually the village was rebuilt, and with the loss of the other tailed beasts, the war came to an end. Peace was restored, but as much as anything else, Minato and Kushina's family was restored as well. Minato and Kushina watched as Akari continued to grow, taking on the same fire as her mother. Every day she went to the academy, and her big brother Naruto was the one to walk her there each day. He took to this role as an older brother well, which Minato was proud of. Like his student and his son, Minato too had an arm made of this mysterious flesh that mimicked the bone and sinew that had been destroyed. And speaking of Kakashi, Minato went to meet with him. Finding his student by the cemetery, he moved closer. "Kakashi." Looking down at where his student was standing, he saw two headstones with two names inscribed upon them, Rin Nohara and Obito Uchiha. "It's hard to believe that Obito survived," Minato said. "Even harder to believe that he would try to destroy us like that," Kakashi stated. Minato thought about it. "You know, he tried to turn Naruto against us. Naruto was controlled by him, but at night, as I try to sleep, I'm haunted by the idea that the genjutsu he cast on Naruto, the feelings Naruto had, were perhaps Obito's feelings. Obito turned Naruto against us, but I can't help but wonder who turned Obito against us first. I guess it's too late to ask," Minato said as he looked at the headstones. Maybe Obito was coerced to turn against us. Maybe he wasn't, Kakashi said. But regardless of which is true, I plan to remember the Obito I knew. That was the real Obito, and I'll never forget it. Minato nodded. Why don't you come over for dinner, Kakashi? You know, you're a member of this family too. Kakashi looked up at Minato. Maybe I am, but I don't know if I should. Minato shook his head. I insist. Kakashi took a deep breath and sighed. All right, fine. That night, they all reconnected, truly, for the first time in a while. And though they had experienced much pain the past few years, it was finally over, and they were allowed to enjoy peace together. And that's where I plan to end it for now. I hope the ending was everything you expected it to be. I sometimes have a hard time landing the endings, so let me know if I did well. Let me know what your favorite part was, things you'd like to have done differently. I'm excited to hear about it from ya. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified when more videos like this drop, and if you can't wait, check out these other videos from our channel. Until next time, peace out.